Good morning, Phil and Heather here, and it is 6:50 a.m. on April the 21st, Easter Sunday, and we have just arrived. It's actually not even sunrise yet. I don't normally they don't open the gates until exactly sunrise, and sunrise today I think is in like 4 minutes. But the gate is open, and we are rolling through Cades Cove, and we're going to see what sort of landscape and wildlife photo opportunities we can come up with. So follow along with us. There's some horses over there. I stopped for just a quick second and made some photos of them. We'll see if any of them are worthwhile. It was pretty dark, so I was having to use a really slow shutter speed, and they kept moving around, so they may all be blurry. All the horse pictures were in fact blurry. It was really long shutter speeds because it was almost dark, so I decided to work on some landscape type photography without any moving subjects. I'm making the obligatory photo of the most photographed tree in all of the Smoky Mountains. Got a lot of fog or mist or clouds on the mountains, and got a 10-second timer going on, 1/5 of a second, f8 ISO 100. I'm right about 80 or 85 millimeters on the 70 to 200, f8 ISO 100, 1/5 of a second, 10-second timer. We'll get a couple of those. So here's the results of that photograph. I thought it came out pretty good. I've seen 100 different versions of this same photo, and here's one more. Here's another tree I always take pictures of. f8 ISO 100, 1/25 of a second. This can be a really good sunrise photo because the sun will come up right behind that tree, but it was just too overcast on this particular day to catch the sunrise. Got this nice field here down over there. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a turkey, and a gentleman has followed it down the hill with his camera, but I'm going to make a pano of the mountains with the fog on them, Smoky Mountains as it were. I've got my tripod leveled up. I'm going to be shooting at 1/8 of a second, f11 ISO 100. When I make a pano, I like to take a photograph of my hand before and after all the shots for the panorama. And of course, when you're making a pano, it's best to overlap too much instead of not enough. And you know, I think maybe at least 1/3 of the frame should be overlapped, and maybe even more. You can't overlap too much, but you can certainly overlap not enough. And you'll see in some of this, while I was working on this photograph, I would move it, and I thought maybe too far, and maybe I would come back some. I'm sure that happened. Where does it happen? Somewhere along in here I move it further than I thought was correct, and there we go, and I backed it up a little bit. Oh my goodness, where in the world is it? So even if you take two of the exact same picture, or a picture with only 10% overlap, it's still better than leaving a gap. And close it out with a picture of your hand. So here it is, and that little black dot in the foreground, that is a turkey that was in that field. And look at the smoke on the mountains, or the fog, or whatever you want to call it. I guess that's how the Great Smoky Mountains got their name. So here's the full pano, 11 images to make it, and I'm really satisfied with it. It's one of my favorite images of the day.
Did you find a turkey?
I did find a turkey. It's time to shift gears now from landscape photography to a little bit of wildlife photography, as I spotted a turkey way closer than the one across the street where I made the pano. This one, although it seems like a long way, it was much, much closer.
Bill's gonna go get an epic portrait of this turkey.
That was Heather talking, who actually made this B-roll footage here. I appreciate the vote of confidence. Hopefully the pictures that I get of the turkey will be worthy of you calling them epic before you've even seen them. So we'll see how that goes. But I gotta tell you, Cades Cove is such a wonderful place because you can do wildlife photography and landscape photography and portraits and macro photography. I mean, there's just all sorts of opportunities for you to do things with your camera. So I have to bring lots and lots of lenses and gear when I go there. The one thing that I can't bring is my drone because it's against the law to fly your drone in a national park. But otherwise, you can do all sorts of photography at Cades Cove.
Can see the turkeys coming back down here a little bit. Phil's chasing it. Here comes the turkey.
I did mostly stills while I was following the turkey around on this hill, but I did do one short video clip with the D500 and the 200-500, and here that is now. Okay, so here are some of the stills that I made. I was using a really slow shutter speed, as you can see, 1/250th of a second, because there just was not a whole lot of light. So most of the pictures that I took were blurry, but I did get some that did not have motion blur, and here's some of those now. There's one while it's actually gobbling, and you can see its beard. I don't know if I would call these photos epic like Heather was talking about, but I'm pretty happy with them. There's the turkey trotting along. You can see one of its tail feathers is missing. Maybe this last photo might qualify as epic. That one's pretty doggone good. I was really happy with that one. So one photo made it to be an epic. And now it's time to change gears completely again. So here I am sitting down with the D500 and the 200-500, which has a really close minimum focus distance. So you can do near macro work with it. And I'm taking a photograph of a yellow trillium wildflower on the side of the road here. And I think I'm every bit as happy with the 200-500 millimeter photo as I am with a photo I made of the yellow trillium, the same one later in the video with a real macro lens. That shot's pretty good. I'm happy with that, and it wasn't so difficult to put together. Okay, so I'm doing macro photography of these wildflowers here. You know, this whole bank is covered with wildflowers. Most of them are purple, some are pink, but only this one is white, so it caught my eye. And this is the Tokina 100 2.8 macro, which is a screw drive autofocus. Uses a screw drive, so it does not autofocus at all with the Z series camera and the FTZ. So I'm doing manual, which for macro you would probably do manual anyway, but I'm using the focus peaking. So I just adjust it till there's some red and make the shot. Okay, I found that I had better luck instead of using focus peaking, just zooming in to the part of the flower that I wanted to be in focus and getting that in focus where I can actually see it worked better for me than focus peaking. At least I think that's working better. Yeah, that's in focus. Look at the water drop there. It's in focus. So here is the Virginia Bluebell, the white one, with the Tokina 100mm macro. And you know, I didn't take a picture of the Bluebells with the 200 to 500, but that would have been interesting to see how that turned out. But look at all the fiddling that I'm having to do. One of the ways that a macro lens can have more depth of field is by having a really small aperture. And so in order to do that, you need a tripod. I took the 200 to 500 shot handheld, but this one I had to put on a tripod because the shutter speed was so slow, and there was just a lot of fiddling around. Now, if I was doing an extra close-up, the macro lens would definitely have been superior, but I think I like the 200 to 500 better in this situation. I'm set up here for this shot of the yellow trillium that we found. Got the Tokina macro lens on. The car's down the road a little ways, so I left my remote shutter. I had to do it on a timer. But anyway, great Smoky Mountains wildflowers right here. I don't know, what, 10 feet from the road on the Cades Cove loop. Pretty cool. I had to do some pretty weird stuff with my Manfrotto 055 tripod to get this shot. The center post extends sideways on this tripod, and this is the first time I've ever used it. But it did allow me to get what I was shooting for. And you know what's funny? I came up here a few minutes ago with the D500 and the 200 to 500 and just snapped a photo of that thing easy as can be. It'll be interesting to see when I get home what worked better, the super telephoto or the macro lens to make a picture of this flower. So here is the near macro photo with the macro lens, and I think I like it a little better than the 200 to 500 shot, but not enough better to do all that fiddling. We're cruising down Hyatt Lane right now, and we just ran across a eastern meadowlark, which was on top of one of the poles or posts for the little fence. And I had the 500 f4 on my D500, and I had the 1.7 teleconverter, so I was able to get a pretty good picture of it, and I'll share that with you here in a moment. I switched to the 500mm lens and the 1.7 teleconverter because I was trying to get a picture of a field sparrow that was so far away, and it was too far away even for that rig, but I was really set up for this guy when I found it. Look at that beautiful bird. It almost looks like a really large sparrow, but the breast on this bird is just amazingly yellow. Look at that. And I think I actually backed the color a little bit back instead of boosting it when I was editing this picture. But that's really a beautiful bird. And here it is. All the other ones were on posts on the side of Hyatt Lane, but this is in the field. Just beautiful. I was so happy to get a good picture of one of these. Made a couple of circular Polarizer 70 to 200 photographs of that tree right there, here at the intersection of Hyatt's Lane over there and Cades Cove Loop over there. And I made one from kind of in that direction and one from a little further over there. And then as I was hiking back to the car, which is probably still another 75 or 80 yards through Briar Patch to get to, I decided I should document this, but I don't have the vlog camera, so I just recorded with the Z6 with no external microphone. The other two tree pictures earlier in the video are taken right on the side of the road, but this one I had to hike a couple of 100 yards to get to the spot for this composition. So Heather and I have been wandering around on this hill that's near the cabin that's at the intersection of Hyatt Lane and Cades Cove Loop, and we've been taking selfies. This last time we came here, or maybe the time before, we took selfies at the exact same location. We really liked this spot, so we came back, and we'd never been to the top before. Heather went all the way to the top and found a graveyard up there, so that was pretty neat. What was the oldest grave plot you saw?
1872.
So they died in 1872, or they were born in 1872?
They died in 1872.
Wow, that's a long time ago. All right, let's move on. Sometimes the selfies we make are kind of sweet, and other times they're kind of crazy. And here is an example of both types of selfies that we make. When we go to Cades Cove, we come in on the main Cades Cove loop, and then when we get to Hyatt Lane, we make a left. And we go all the way down Hyatt Lane, and then we make a left onto Cades Cove loop. And when we get back up to Sparks Lane, we make another left back to the original part of Cades Cove loop, and then we go around the outside. So that's our strategy. Can you park right here? I want to get a picture of that, or even over there, whichever one's easiest.
I'm here.
Okay. I just saw a stream that I want to take a picture of, so I'm going to go do that.
Hey, there's a deer.
I didn't really do a whole lot of deer photography on this particular day at Cades Cove, although deer photography is pretty easy there. But I did like this picture and this second one as well of this deer that was having it some nice breakfast on the side of the road. I made a few shots here along this little stream that runs right across Cades Cove Loop. I actually spotted this spot from the car and just looked over and said, wow, that looks cool. So I stopped here and made a few shots. I used 24-70 and the circular polarizer. I probably took 2 or 3 shots at this location, but this is the only one of them that I really liked. And this one's focus stacked. I got the fern in focus and then mid-frame focus and back focus. Okay, this is Heather sleeping in the car with the polarizer on, and then as I twist the polarizer, you'll see that we just get glare on the windshield, and I'll keep on twisting it. And now she's back. Heather sleeping in the car. What a sweetie. So this is the last still. This was handheld with the polarizer. What a gnarly looking old tree. I really like it. For today's trip, we got up at 3 a.m. so we could be at Cades Cove at sunrise, and I'll be honest with you, it was too much for me. It wore me completely out. I never caught up. So by about noon, we left. We didn't even make a full loop of Cades Cove. We went in, we went down Hyatt Lane, and we came back. Sparks Lane was closed. It may be because water over the road, I'm not sure. And instead of going all the way back to the back like we normally do on a second loop, we just went home. We were worn out. I slept 2/3 of the way home, and then I drove the last third. Heather, who actually had fallen asleep in the car while I was making pictures, drove the majority of the way home. So it wasn't her fault that we left early at all, even though I did get some video of her asleep in the car. It was completely mine. And I still think, even though we just made kind of a half day out of it, or maybe a third of a day out of it, I still think we got some pretty good stuff. So thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.